Hello children, let me welcome you to the virtual class of the Brihan Mumbai Mahanagar Palika. My name is Shraddha teacher. Children, we are in the middle of this COVID-19 pandemic and because of that we are not able to go to school, but that doesn't mean we are going to stop learning. So we are going to do many lessons which are very interesting from your textbook through the virtual class here. So let us do a lesson in English today. We will be doing a lesson for standard 8th. Now, whenever we meet here, children, we do a lot of lessons from your textbook and we do lessons in prose, we do lessons in poetry, etc. But many a times, the grammar part, which is part of your lesson, gets left behind. Okay, in the 15-minute slot that we have, we do not get enough time to look at the grammar. So once every 4 or 5 lessons that we do a lesson in which we try and cover the grammar in the unit that we have done. So in such a similar lesson today, we will be looking at the grammar portion which is part of unit 1. Now some of these topics we might have lightly touched upon when we did the lesson and some of them will be totally new for you. But remember, most of the times we have tried to at least breeze through the grammar exercises that are there in your book. So this is the first lesson that we have in our textbooks, children, a time to believe. Now, this lesson when we did, we looked at various parts in the lesson, we explained the lesson to you, and we also saw the difficult words in the lesson and so many other things. But there were some parts of grammar also, or you can say some parts of figures of speech also in this particular lesson. Now when it comes to poems, you will see that we have more figures of speech which are part of the exercises in the poems. So in this particular lesson, lesson number 1.1, we had 2 points of figures of speech. One was personification and the other one was epigram. Alright, so what we will do is we will look at these 2 figures of speech in detail today. We will try and see the meaning and we will also do some examples of these 2 figures of speech. And then if time permits, we will go to the grammar point in the next lesson. Alright, so before we go and do it in detail, let us see what they have given us in the textbook. They have told us that a personification, first let us see, it is a figure of speech where human characteristics are given to non-humans. Okay, so when you personify something, when you say that a thing which is not a person has got qualities of a person, when we say person, it means human being. Alright, and the second one is epigram. Now epigrams are usually lines in a poem which can be said to be behaving like proverbs or like quotes or like sayings. Alright, so what does a proverb tell you? A proverb gives you some knowledge or gives you some advice. So let us see now in detail what personification is and what epigrams are. So this is the meaning of personification put in very, very simple words. So a figure of speech that gives the qualities of a person to an animal, an object or an idea. So in case you want to describe an animal, but then you are giving it a quality which it does not possess naturally, then you're saying to be personifying that animal. Now when you do that to an object, you're personifying that object, and when you do it to an idea, you're personifying that particular idea. Look at the example here. The wind yelled all night long. Now yelling is an action, okay, where you cry out loudly or you scream out loudly, and it is not a positive kind of an emotion. Okay, we do not yell with joy. Many a times we yell with, you can say when you are in despair, when you are not very happy, when you are sad, when something bad is happening to you. So it is said that the wind yelled all night long. Now look at the expression of the wind. It looks very angry, isn't it? Now giving this expression to the wind is also personifying it, because emotions like anger and fear and joy, love, all these emotions can be felt only by human beings and in certain cases animals. But yelling, a wind cannot do. So yelling who can do? Look at this child. He's yelling and he's crying. Okay? Is something wrong happened to him? He's not finished his homework, I suppose, and he has to go to school also very soon. So he is yelling. Yelling means making a loud sound and probably screaming or crying. Okay? So yelling means here we are personifying the action. This is an example of personification. The wind here is said to be yelling, which it cannot do at all. Alright children, so this is a very easy example of personification. We will look at some more examples so that the idea becomes clear to you. So one more simple meaning of personification: giving human qualities to objects or ideas. For example, the sunlight danced. See, the sunlight is supposed to be dancing. Now the sun cannot dance, of course, and therefore the sunlight also cannot dance. So what are they trying to say? They're trying to say that the sunlight is falling upon something. Okay, that is why they're saying the sunlight is dancing. So dancing is an action which can be done by humans. Okay, it cannot be done by things which are inanimate like the sun. The second one, the streets are calling me. Streets are calling you. Sometimes when you feel like roaming around outside, which is of course not possible now because of the COVID situation. But sometimes just like that, when you feel like getting up, leaving your home and just wandering on the streets, that feeling is called like the streets are calling you. It is not actually the street which is calling you. You yourself are feeling like getting up and roaming around on the streets. Alright, so this is one more example of personification. So these are some examples of personification, and these were some easy meanings of personification. Now we have some exercises here for you. So let us try and see what they are. So the candle danced in the dark as the students sat. So we just now saw an example of the sun dancing. So which here is an example of personification? You have to identify which words or what is personified here. So what is the personification here? The candle danced in the dark. Candles are inanimate objects which cannot dance, but then the way they sway in the wind makes you feel as if they are dancing. Okay, so the candle danced in the dark as the students sat is an example of personification. Look at the next example. The sunflowers nodded in the wind during the spring day. So the sunflowers nodding. Alright, nodding means moving your head voluntarily, is an example of personification. See the sunflower nodding. Actually the sunflower is not nodding. The wind is making it move that way. So sunflowers cannot do actions like nodding. Okay, so this is an example of personification here. Now there are some children, there are some you can say figures of speech which you will find being used again and again in many poems as you do your studies this year as well as next year or even in the 10th standard. For example, these are the ones which will always come up in most of the poems. So you have metaphor, simile, personification, etc. In most of the poems you will find examples of these. Okay, so try and understand it properly so that it will be there in your mind and you will not have to learn it again and again. The next example, see, the angry storm pounded the shelter. So the angry storm, just like you said, the angry wind. So getting angry is a human emotion.
See, the storm is not something which is human. But then angry means it is a very violent, you can say, storm, a very strong kind of a storm. It pounded the shelter. Now you had the cyclone last month, isn't it? You saw in the news that many people lost their homes. Okay, the shelters were blown away, especially the ones along the sea. So it was the angry storm which blew away the shelter. But the storm cannot be angry. Okay, so getting angry is a human emotion. Look at the next one. The silence crept into the classroom as the teacher walked in. So when the teacher walked in, silence crept. So creeping is something which animals do. It cannot be done by something like silence. So the silence crept is an example of personification. You can only feel the silence around you. Okay, you cannot see it creeping into a room. The city never sleeps. So city never sleeps. Now city is not a human being or an animal which can sleep and wake up. Okay, it can feel tired. Those kind of things don't happen. So only humans and animals can sleep. So what happens during night time? The city goes silent. That is, people are all in their houses, the lights are all shut down, and people are all silent. So the people are sleeping. We cannot say that the city is sleeping. So, children, these are all various examples of personification, the figure of speech, which is part of lesson number 1. Now, I told you we have one more figure of speech, so let us go there and let us see what that figure of speech is. So when I was explaining the introduction to you, I told you that epigram is more like proverbs. Okay, so what does a proverb do? It gives you some kind of advice. It gives you some kind of good thought. So an epigram is more like a proverb. So see here, a short, witty poem or pointed statement. Pointed statement means statement which has got a definite purpose, often written in two well balanced parts. So there are two parts usually to an epigram. Example C, the first example, to err is human, to forgive divine. So making an error is human. If we are a human being, if someone is a human being, that person will definitely err. Err here means to make mistakes. Okay, because we are all prone to making mistakes. But to forgive, but if someone has done something wrong to you and you forgive that person, then you become divine. That is, you become above human. You get qualities which are above the qualities of a human being. Look at the next one. It gives you advice. Early bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy and wise. So when you get up early, that means you make some money, you do some work, you go out to walk, all right, you get to read something, so it makes you healthy, wealthy and wise. So these are epigrams. Now epigrams are not always giving you advice, but they sometimes also are a taunt, takes the form of a taunt, sometimes a satire, and sometimes mocking also. Mocking means it makes fun of you also sometimes. Okay, so this is what epigrams are. Let us look at a few examples of epigrams, but I hope you understood what the meaning of an epigram is. So an epigram is nothing but it is short, it has got a purpose, it gives you some kind of advice, sometimes it taunts you or it mocks you as well. But most of the times epigrams will give you advice for the betterment of yourself. See, let us look at two epigrams here. So mankind must put an end to war, or war will put an end to mankind. This was a very famous saying by John F. Kennedy. So unless and until you stop fighting with each other, fighting doesn't mean physical war. I mean just like you fight with your friends in the class. Here fighting means one country going to war with another country, where they use a lot of weapons and they use a lot of destructive weapons in order to destroy the enemy, but they end up destroying themselves also. And like Gandhiji said, an eye for an eye will make the whole world blind. So if someone hurts someone else and if you hurt someone back, what will happen? Very soon the whole world will end up being wounded. Okay, so if you if you want to stop the world from coming to an end, you should put an end to war. That is what he said. So this is a very big, you can say, the thought, or it is a very big point of teaching for us. Let's look at one more example here. It is better to light a candle than curse the darkness. So this was said by Roosevelt. So if you're sitting in the dark and if you're not doing anything about it and you're simply cursing the darkness, instead of getting up and lighting a candle, what will happen? If you get up and light a candle, the darkness will automatically vanish. But sitting and cursing the darkness will not help it or will not make it vanish. So it is always, like we said, it is better to help yourself. Self-help is the best help. Instead of sitting and cursing yourself or cursing your situation, always try to make an effort and see to it that you do something to improve it. Okay, so if you're getting less marks in school, what will you do? Will you sit and curse yourself or your school or your teacher? No, you should always try and become better as a student. Try to read more, try to do better practice so you get better marks in your exams and you do well. Alright children, so these were the examples of epigram, and we also looked at what is the meaning of the figure of speech. We saw how to explain the figure of speech, and we also saw many meanings. We also saw what is the meaning of personification.
So after doing personification, children, we have already seen epigram. Let us look at some more figures of speech that we have in Unit 1. So the next lesson or the next poem that we have is the poem Pilgrim. So look at inversion and we will look at tautology today. Alright, these are the two figures of speech. Now let me tell you children, what are figures of speech? Figures of speech are certain tools in language which are used specially in poetry. Okay, so let us look at the first one, that is inversion. So what is the meaning of inversion? Inversion is also known as anastrophe. Okay, it means you are inversing or you are changing the normal order of the words just for poetic effect. Now you know poets, they use a lot of liberty as far as language is concerned, isn't it? Sometimes they use words which we have never heard of and words which do not exist in the dictionary also. These kind of things are called as poetic liberties. Okay, to make the poem more attractive, to make the poem more interesting, they may use these kind of tools. One of them is the inversion, which is part of the figure of speech. Now, the inversion is also known by one more name I told you, and that is the anastrophe. Okay, now let us look at some examples. The strong soldier, you say sometimes, but here what is the sentence? What is the phrase? It is the soldier strong. Okay, so the noun comes actually after the adjective, but in this particular case, since it is an example of inversion, you will see that the noun is coming before the adjective. Then you have worlds between. Alright, so it should be between worlds, but here it is worlds between. Even on the cup, which is given here on the screen for you, you have an example of inversion. In vain I have struggled. So how will you rephrase it? You will write it as I have struggled in vain. Okay children, so this was about inversion. Let us look at a few more examples as we go along. So see, to the sea she went. So we can say she went to the sea. Without smiling they parted. They parted without smiling. Then came the thunder. The thunder came then. Out she went. She went out. Fear she felt. She felt fear. Okay, so these are all examples of inversion or anastrophe as we call them. Let us look at two more examples. So look at the normal sentence, how it is written, and how it is written when we use the figure of speech, inversion. He reacts so quickly that no one can match him. This is how a normal sentence is written. Look at how the tool of inversion is used.
So quickly does he react that no one can match him. Okay. Next example. They are such wonderful players, no one can beat them. Such wonderful players are they that no one can beat them. Alright children, so these are a few examples of inversion for you. Now we have just a couple of minutes left into the lesson. Let us quickly look at what is a tautology. Tautology is a very simple concept where unnecessary repetition of an idea is done. Unnecessarily, without any need, you repeat an idea. Sometimes you use different words to repeat an idea. Look at the examples here. A good looking, beautiful woman. There is no need for you to say a good looking as well as beautiful. If you just say a good looking woman, or you could say a beautiful woman. Okay, so this is an example of tautology. Now people who use this kind of language, people who unnecessarily repeat ideas, are said to be weak in that particular language. Okay, now look at the second example here. A round circle. Now a circle itself means something which is round. So a round circle means there is no need to say that. Okay, a big giant. So giants are always big. You will never see a small tiny giant. A widow woman. Now a woman who's lost her husband is called a widow. Whereas a man who loses his wife is called as a widower. So when you say a widow, you need not specify that she is a woman. Alright? See? Armed gunman. You need not say armed gunman. So he's already has a gun with him. That means he's armed. Alright? Single bachelor. Now a bachelor means someone who's not married. That means he's single. Depreciate in value. So it is the value of things which depreciates. So you need not say depreciate in value. Okay. So this is tautology. Examples of tautology. Needless repetition of a single concept. See here. The Gobi is a dry desert. Why do you need to say dry when you're saying desert? Deserts are dry places. And look at this. If it's in stock, we have it. So when you have it, it means it is in stock. And if it is in stock, it means we have it. Alright, so there is no need to repeat this. So
children, now you have watched the video. So after you watch the video now, you will have to complete a few simple tasks. Now you might have watched the video on your computers or your laptops or your mobile phones. Now after you watch the video, what will you do? You will please go to the description box which is given below the video. So what is the description box? See, the description box looks like this. Alright, and after you go to the description box, you will see that there are a few questions there. Now what are these questions about? These questions are about the lesson that we just learned or the video that you just watched. So what will you do? You will think back properly about the lesson and you will try and answer these questions and note down the answers in your notebook if you want. Okay? After that, we have another task waiting. You will also click on the link which you will find in the description box to fill up the Google form. So now what is the Google form, children? It is nothing but a simple form. There are a few simple questions there about the video which you just saw and also about yourself. So these are the tasks now that you will have to complete after you watch each video. So children, wasn't that a very interesting lesson? I'm sure you learned a lot of new things in this lesson. If you have liked this video, please hit the like button and also subscribe to my video so that you will get to see all the videos which I keep posting regularly.